Yes. It's 6:02 p.m. on the 10th of May 2021, and we'll now call this meeting to order. And please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Gretchen, moment of silence. We have anyone for tonight? No one for tonight. That's a good thing. Okay. So we've opened the regular meeting, and I need a motion to approve the meeting agenda.
I'll make that motion.
And Mike makes it. We have a second.
Second.
Second by George. Any discussion? All in favor, aye. Aye. Opposed? Carried. Accept minutes of the regular town board meeting from 4/12/2021. Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Made by Deb. You have a second?
I'll second.
By Michael. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Financial report. All right. So in the general fund, we have $238,823.28. In the highway fund, we have $69,065.41. In the youth commission fund, we have $10,454.15. In the Hadlock Dam project, we have $240.09. In the Hadlock Park District Fund, we have $7,868.72. The Consolidated Health District remains at $370.48. Trusted Agency Fund is $1,991.27. And the Medical Reimbursement Fund is $5,013.87. And then we move up to our savings account balances. In NICLAS General Fund, we have $468,247.13. In NICLAS Highway Fund, we have $1,022,429.55. In the NICLAS Hadlock Park District, we have $205,716.80. And in LoSAP, we have $22,901.85. Any questions on the financial report? If not, we'll move on, and I need a motion to approve authorization payment of the bills.
I'll move.
Gretchen makes it. We got a second by Deb. Is there any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Public comments. Anybody from the public that would wish to comment? I think we got two of them here tonight. No comments? No questions? Okay, very good. Our reports from the town officials and committees. Well, we'll start off with, where to start? We'll do that. All right. So we've established the dates for the, or they're roughly the dates for when the harvest will go into the lake and come out of the lake, which will be June through September. And Georgia's got that under control, thank God. And the other issues I'll bring up now, we're going to do the list, I don't know what this is here. So we're going to talk about this now, even though we're going to get down to the short-term rentals. But we had the discussion one of these times here not too long ago about the northern living facilities and where we stand on those. Now I don't have the values on the assessments tonight because we discussed that at the last meeting, and with those have been raised up, and they'll be having a grievance night on those to see if you're going to reduce them or what they're going to leave the same or whatever the case may be. But on all their properties, I've had the code enforcement from the county get in there and take a look at where they are and what they need to do and those types of things. So starting with 3140 Sunset Wayview, they need a septic permit issued. Project must be finished and permit closed out after final inspection. At 3144 Sunset View Way, dropping off application this week for deck that was already built, blocking use of deck until they receive a certificate. Okay? 3150 Sunset View Way. Sending a copy of hot tub electrical inspection and provide engineer certification letter for open the septic permit. 5274 Pillar Way, slash the 5071 Dawson Way, which are the same. It's the same address for the same place. Don't ask me how we did that, but we did that somehow in the books. They are verifying the size of the septic system to see if okay for 6 bedrooms. That's the one that they have advertised for the 25 people. Okay, so they're researching that to make sure that it's in the system they have is adequate for that. And 196 or 198 Hamlet Pond Road, they're submitting a permit to install a heating cooling system. And they've been given till June 1st to comply with all of those things. So code enforcement now at the county level is on top of that. I will discuss this with Mark because these are all things that you have been going on around that he hasn't been addressing. And you know, we need to get not just these properties, but all the properties. We need to have a better handle on what's going around when things are done. The question needs to be asked: have they been permitted? Do you have a copy of your permit? If they haven't, then we need to get them down there and get that done. Okay, so this is just the one area out there we had our conversations about and concerns with the people that had called in. So that's where we stand on that aspect of it. And Gretchen's going to talk on a little bit, I believe, on hers about the New York State Canal Corporation in the Champlain Canal Trail, with some good news that she received from there. So she's worked very hard at that. I'm going to wait till she gets to her. I'll let her do that, but in advance, I want to thank her for the effort, time, and energy that she has put onto that project to make it a reality here in the town of Fort Anne. And we still got some good things that are going to happen there. So that's that. The other thing I want to talk about, which you all have a copy of, is the pop-up schedule for the clinics to do the COVID-19 testing throughout the county. We've been doing this for 21 weeks straight, every Saturday, and sometimes during the week. I'm hoping that we get semi-caught up so I can get a Saturday off. It's been right out straight. But we're doing what we need to do to try to get it. The biggest thing we're having now is the reluctance for a certain section of the population to get their shots. And what we seem to hear when we ask people about it, in fact, I encountered this Stop and Shop the other day up here. A person I know fairly well asked me if he got the shot yet. He says, no. And I said, why not? He says, well, there's not enough scientific evidence to say that it's safe. And I said, well, let me see. I know you smoke a pack of cigarettes a day. There's certainly plenty of information out there that says that's dangerous. How much more do you need here on this before this is safe compared to your cigarettes? Well, that's not the point, he said. So, okay. I guess there is no point here. You just don't want to do it for whatever reason. Which is their prerogative, but they're kind of playing Russian roulette. We need to get at a certain level here where we can not be affecting each other. Get rid of this damn mask and get back to business as usual. Get the businesses reopened and stuff. We're getting closer to the mask aspect of it. I think around the 7th and 19th of May, hopefully when we start raising open some of the other things, we'll get to a point where we can not have to have these on. If we've been vaccinated, we can keep our social distance, but not have to wear a mask. And that's what I'm hoping we get to. I hope that's what we hear from the governor's office and the CDC here in the very, very near future. So I will get off my soapbox about the COVID-19 vaccines. But if you have an opportunity to encourage individuals that haven't gotten to get them, please do that because I think it's advantageous to all of us to have it done. And I think that's going to finish up what we have here. We have some things to discuss, and I can't discuss now because they're executive session items. And having said that, I think I'll start with Deb and we'll work with you around to see if you have any town board member business.
I was wondering about that portion of the dock over on Clay Hill. Have we found a way to get that picked up, or at least so it don't float off someplace when the water rises?
I think Michael's going to report on that.
Okay.
Will we get to that?
Okay, how about on the fees, where you're gonna talk about that too?
The fees?
The fees that we pay the Canal Corp, Is that for putting in of the dock or for the water going past our town?
I gotta be honest with you.
I did have a question on that too, same thing, so,
Okay.
yeah.
I mean, that was at one point told that there was a lifelong contract that's for the water going by, but I'd like to see that, a copy of that contract
Okay.
if there was such a thing.
I don't remember any fees being paid. But I may be wrong, I might have missed a voucher and not seen it in the budget, but I didn't think there was anything that we're actually paying.
Yeah, we paid $2,000
Yeah.
every
Is that
year.
right? Okay. We'll have to check it. I honestly, I can't give an answer on that tonight. Because I gotta show it here, it's not that I do. If it was there, it just went right by me. Because I didn't, I'm sure it's, I'm not questioning it.
Yeah,
I just don't know. I can't give an answer because
no,
I
it was
wasn't,
paid.
I wasn't aware for what
I
it
do know it
was.
was discussed at one point, that there was some sort of fee or
Yeah.
whatever it may be, and it doesn't really, I don't think it really explains what exactly they were going to cover with that fee, so, so I don't know
Okay.
what exactly we get for paying that, so.
That's pretty much all I had.
All right, thank you. So we'll check it then. I can't give you an answer next, I don't know. Michael?
So back to the doc thing real quick.
Yes.
So I sent emails down, so you can't get a specific email, you know, on who to email, so I sent out their generic email 3 times, didn't get an answer that way. Made 2 phone calls to their maintenance place, which is out of Albany, and that forwards it to a cell phone where you get an answering service twice. And then tried calling the Albany office and still can't get an answer. So I don't exactly know what we're going to do. What I was thinking is that I know Roselle comes to put the harvester in. Would it be something that we could look at? And it roughly, really, I mean, is the same time frame. I just looked. I think the canal officially opens next week. I think it is. Would there be something worth looking into? Having them see. You know, I know that the headlock thing. They work on that. But if it's, I don't know how long it takes them to put the harvester. I'm not assuming more than a half day, maybe. Would it be something we can look at? Having the docks put in also. And I wish Paul was here tonight, but he's not. I don't know if it's something that the town guys would be able to, once they're in, you know, I think they probably just pull together, whatever the case may be. Would it be worth looking at having Roselle see if they can put those in as well?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what's involved in. Maybe Deborah or Gretchen knows. When we put those in, did they just sit them in, or do we have to anchor them somehow?
They're
Is it-
anchored in.
They're anchored to the shore. Yeah, they're
There's
to
a
the shore,
chain.
right? Yeah.
There's actually the big
Cables.
Chicago eye bolts or
Yeah.
whatever.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
And they're actually chained right to the
Okay.
shoreline.
Okay.
So
In
yeah,
several
and there's like
places.
a ramp that goes down to it. So, but it looked
But
like,
they are floaters. They're
right,
not
they are
crib
floaters.
docks or
Yeah.
nothing.
No. So, but whenever I went out there fishing, it looks like they just roll together, basically. So.
Yeah, let's see if we can get a price on it.
Okay.
See if that's
So we've already paid the $2,000 for this year, because it was in, I don't know, January, February bills. So,
I think they said they were not gonna put their docks in.
Right, they said that
Right,
later
they
last,
said
that was
that,
last
but
year.
they
They
gave
said
us a
that.
bill.
Saying last year was the last.
what was that for this year or for last year?
That was
Did we pay
for
the
this year, I
or we paid
believe.
for the first year?
Last year was the last time they were gonna do it, I
Okay.
believe.
All right, so we gotta check on our $2,000 we paid.
Right.
Thanks, Doug.
I think the $2,000 was the use of the canal itself.
I think it's for the water running through, personally, but my question would be, is every other town paying the same thing? And is there a lifetime, you know, is there really such thing as a lifetime contract?
They're usually like
So-
99 renewable and things like that. You don't usually see.
So I'd like, you know, that's why I was wondering, if, you know, if there's actually a contract.
Jeff, do you remember anything on this at all?
I don't know.
Okay.
I remember last month we mentioned essentially a discussion similar to this one. But it was just that there was stories, and it's generally pretty hard to get proper records out of canal code. So it's everybody's kind of working off what they've been told over time, and it's hard to dig up the proper record.
How long ago did that actually go, was that actually put in the docks, do you remember?
And no,
Gretchen, do you remember how long ago that was? Roughly?
No, I don't. But there's a new person in charge down there in Port Edward, and I can get his name and
Okay,
I can call him.
okay. Maybe we do some time frame, because then we at least have a place to start looking to see if we had a copy of the contract, or if, you know, if we had a year, at least a year to start. This might have even been before your time as town attorney here too, Jim. I don't know how long ago it was.
Yeah,
Were you, when they were doing the park down there, were you a town attorney then or no?
Fitzgerald Morris was the town attorney.
At that time?
Yeah,
Okay,
it was not something that I personally worked on.
okay. But it wasn't your firm then, so if you need records, you probably go to them too.
But I think the docs were there
We have the
before
records.
that.
You have their records?
Yeah, when we began representing the town, they gave us all our records, so we have it, filing cabinets somewhere. I'll go through those as well.
All right, Deb says she thinks they were there long before the park was there, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were, 'cause I can remember being on the other side when the old bridge was still there. They've been there a long time before that park was down there.
Okay,
So I do remember that.
all right. I'll ask her, I'll ask Helen as well, she knew.
Yeah. It's just like I said, difficult to even get anybody to answer any kind of phone call down there, let alone get anything out of them. So
Well, Gretchen may have a magic phone number to get through down there, so. We'll see.
I'll call this fellow.
Okay, thanks, Gretchen. Okay, George.
Yes, I had a get together with the harvester crew. We're working on a punch list for the harvester, the pontoon boat trailer, and the dump trailer, because they both need their lights reworked and stuff like that. So we got a bit of work to do. We should be starting it. What we're gonna do is pull it up to where Dave can work on the place in his garage.
Good.
It's just a lot easier.
Yep.
And we'll take it from there. I'll let you know how things are going.
Okay, good.
But the punch list, you know, I didn't realize the trailer didn't have any lights or working lights.
Oh, jeez, okay.
So you gotta take care of that.
Yep.
That's all I got.
Very good. Okay, so if there's nothing else from town board members, we'll move on to the town clerk.
We skipped Gretchen.
Oh, Gretchen, I'm sorry.
Oh, that's okay.
We've been talking back and forth. I forgot you had officially been called on.
I'll get away from the trail for a minute. As far as the beach goes, we've got 2 lifeguards right now, and it's gonna be very hectic with only 2. So I'm still trying to get some more. I'm actually almost trying to get another lifeguard class going to get some people interested. Barb, have we got the permit yet?
We have not. We did the paperwork. Stan signed it and we sent it on to that name I had emailed you, but I have not gotten the official permit. You want me to follow up with her?
Yes, if you would.
Yep.
I know Sam was supposed to sign something.
Yep, he did.
Yeah.
Yep, we sent it right back out, yep.
Okay.
Yeah, because remember the problem was that, our disability carrier had put P.O. Box 314 instead of 80 George Street. They were that particular about it. So I contacted the disability carrier and then emailed it right to our new contact at the Department of Health. So
Okay.
we should be getting, I'll follow up with her.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And swim lessons are going to begin on July 6th, which is a Tuesday. That's with the recreation group. I've got another item for later on that. As far as the bike trail goes, I contacted Andy Beers, who's the head of the Empire State Canal System, and we will be receiving a bike fix-it station and bike racks down at the canal by the end of June. And they've also put in some wooden things for 2 signs that are going to be at the end of the trail and at the top of the canal for us to use, and it'll have information about the canal, the bike trail itself. So that's coming by the end of June. let's see. Oh, and Sam got a letter from the Champlain Canalway Trail Working Group, which is what I'm working with. And they would like us to send, or put their information on our website so that people can put in, know what's going on. And they want us to let them know what we're doing here, so that's one thing in the works. We had the canal sweep on the 24th, one session. We've got another one coming up this coming Thursday. We had 6 people who helped out at the canal park. I don't know how many bags of garbage we got, at least 4 or 5. And so it was well worth it. Took us about an hour and a half. We worked at the canal park and we worked up the trail somewhat. So that's good. This group is also looking into getting people from each town to pick up a section of the trail, so adopt a trail type thing. And have a person in town that they can report to if anything needs to be done. For example, there was some bricks out that fell out of the canal, or off the canal itself. So I was told about it and I contacted a person in the canalway, and so they're looking at it and see if it can get fixed. So just things like that. Anything else?
No, I think that's pretty much what we had here, President.
Okay.
Thank you.
Oh, does anybody know a contact in Cumberland Farms to get anything done? Because I'm trying to get hold of them to become a bike-friendly business. And what they need to do is have a bike rack out front and restrooms, and it's free advertisements for them. But I contacted them via the web and nothing, and so I don't know who to contact.
Have you talked to the, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Have you talked to the manager at Companies at all?
What?
Have you talked to the store manager over here at all?
I did once, not this time. I did for the ice fishing derby, and they said that I had to go somewhere else. So I'll try again. Maybe they'll help me.
Yeah, maybe she's usually pretty good. Yeah, it's hard with those corporations.
Okay, I'll go there. I just didn't do that because it didn't work.
Yeah, no, I understand. Yeah, I don't know if you'd reach out to her or not. She's usually nice, so she's pretty good about stuff. But I may have to go through their corporate. I'm sure it does.
Okay, I'll do that. Okay, I'll stop ranting.
No, that's fine. All good information. All good information. Barb.
I gave a check to the town for the month of April for $463.66. And I wasn't sure if you were gonna announce it tonight or not, but there is no Memorial Day parade. I think I forwarded that email to you,
Yes.
so if anybody's looking because of Scouts, Little League, whatever else is going on, there is no Memorial Day parade this year.
There will be a service at the park. I think it's 11 o'clock. It's just they're going to lay wreath, and I think the Cub Scouts are going to help out with that. The American Legion and the Cub Scouts. But they only got like 2 members of the American Legion that are going to do it, and then there'll be a few Cub Scouts that show up.
Is that going to be publicized?
I would assume so. Yeah.
11 a.m.
Yes. Yep. Okay, highway superintendent. I wasn't aware Paul wasn't going to be here tonight. So I don't know if he didn't jump off the report. Did he by any chance, Mark? Did he?
No.
No. Okay. I would just make the comment that we have additional chip monies that came in. But I don't know how to read this thing, so I won't say how much it was. It's broken into like 2 different categories. I don't want to give you wrong amount. But I do know we had some additional chip monies, and I think we'll be here tonight to report on that. So he get his payment and clean. They gave us an uptick from what they had shorted us in the previous year, I believe. They didn't come in, so we hope we have some good news on that, and Paul can let us know exactly what it is, dollars and cents wise. Enforcement officer, we have Mark's report. Demo permits, he had 0. Phone calls 34, voicemails 2, emails 8, texts 35, meetings 2, letters 1, follow-ups 2, fax 1, cord 0, and message 1. And building permits, he got the 1 for the above ground pool, 1 porch, 1 garage, 1 pavilion, 3 single family homes, and 1 addition that was put on. So, that's his report. Historian, I don't have any report from the historian tonight. And the dog control officer hasn't submitted a report. But I think things are going okay from that perspective. We haven't had any issues on that we're aware of. Old business. A local law regulating short-term rentals in the town of Fort Hays. I believe that we all, Jeff provided everybody a copy of that. We have a copy of the, everybody has a copy of Okay, so Jeff, could you, on this draft, could you, start?
Sure.
Highlight usually what was actually changed in it?
Absolutely. So after last month, and the questions from the board, we made some changes. I guess just kind of going through Article 1, there was a question as to whether or not, we're going to do whole town or try and locate it. You guys said whole town, so kind of clarified and deleted all that language. In Article 3 that talks about the general standards, added language that says essentially no short-term rentals shall permit dogs, except. So if they do accept dogs, then you need a valid dog license, and I include language for the place of residence, or if none, in the town of Fort Ann, in the hopes that everybody doesn't commit to re-register dogs here, which would create a burden for the town and confusion for everyone. Copy of a rabies certificate and signed certificate acknowledging receipt of the dog control regulations, which is your standard leash law, so no one would be in a position to say I didn't know, even though it's not a valid excuse.
So so when people travel and have dogs, are going to stay with them there at that facility.
Yep.
Is it incumbent upon the person that's rented to make them have that information up front so they know what they need to bring?
Yes.
Okay. And is that outlined in here somewhere?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, so everything in this article, this kind of broad-based section, whether it's a building condition, building code obligations, they all fall onto the property owner.
Okay.
And generally speaking, everything in here is designed to be a requirement on the owner, not necessarily the guest.
Right. But if somebody comes with a dog, we find out that it's not registered, this will give us a teeth to.
Essentially go after either
Okay.
or both.
That's my concern is that once the people are here, if you leave it, if you let them stay there with it and they go, then you've already beat the system. You try to get them back and do repairs, take care of whatever we need to do.
Right, and that's true to a point, but if there are, they check in on Saturday and there's complaints on Saturday, it can be something that can be addressed, Saturday, Sunday, before, presuming they're there for say a week, you have the ability to address it quickly so it doesn't become an extended problem.
Gotcha. Okay.
What else? Article 5, we just kind of cleaned up that the license is personal to the individual property owner. It's not transferable and it applies to the specific property. So if Jeff Meyer LLC owns a handful of properties, yes, I'm the same owner, but I still need to register each individual property. And the kind of the bigger, not the bigger change, but one of the other items that we folks asked for and that we wanted to put in place was the secondary requirement, which is the amendment to the site plan review law, which requires the use of a property as a short-term rental to obtain site plan approval from the planning board prior to the use. The manner in which that's included is the way the site plan review law is currently written is it essentially says all use and development requires a site plan approval except. And with that except, single family residence, landscaping, and grading, and there's like a list of 6 or 7 items. The proposed amendment essentially clarifies and removes short-term rentals as, excludes them as a single family residence, which is how they're typically regulated. And adds some definitions about dwelling units, short-term rentals, short-term rental owners, rental properties, all those mirror what's in the short-term rental regulations for consistency, and puts those regulations in place. In terms of what the planning board is looking at and reviewing, all those requirements are currently built into the existing site plan review law, so it didn't, in my opinion at this time, doesn't necessitate any additional changes. Because they have the ability to ask for septic, they have the ability to look at parking, all those general commercial uses. The planning board has the authority to require all those items anyways, and it's really just reminding them that they have this authority if it is in fact granted to ask those questions and place whatever reasonable restrictions are appropriate.
Okay, so I guess my question would be, the person buys the property.
Yep.
The procedure would then be, they would go, obviously the code enforcement, they're going to upgrade it. But if they're changing it from 1 family to 2 family, should I go back to the planning board because now they're changing it for commercial reasons versus personal reasons?
Are you changing it from to multifamily or to as use as a short-term rental?
Well, it depends. I mean, I guess that's what an explanation is. If I have a house and I have it was built originally for 2-3 bedrooms, and now I got advertising that I've got 25 people that could come. Do we count those other people that come as other families, or do we just?
No.
You know what I'm saying? I don't know.
I know what you're saying, but and it's a change that we can make if we need to. The way it's currently written is even. Your house, if you were to build an apartment on the back,
Yep.
It would not require planning board approval.
Okay.
If you were to have the apartment on the back of your house and use it as a short-term rental, the use of the short-term rental would trigger an additional approval, not the additional dwelling unit.
Okay.
And it's, I guess I wrote it that way and put it in place based on the feedback that I got from the board that it's not so much use as a traditional single-family dwelling, it's the fact that it's being used for transients, guests, like a hotel analogy, and it's the constant turnover that is why you're looking to regulate this further.
Yes. Yes. Okay. So if I built on the back of my house an apartment.
Yep.
And decided to rent it out for a week, and
It would only be once you started renting it for less than 30 days a pop.
okay,
That
gotcha.
you'd fall under the purview of this law,
Okay.
or this amendment.
All right. I'm just concerned there wasn't some loophole that we're going to get through to actually have a short-term rental and not have to make the appropriate
Right.
fixtures to it, if you will.
Yeah. No, honestly, the biggest quote-unquote loophole, the hardest part for these to be enacted is really going to be enforcement. Just because people will deny it, and it requires certain level of manpower and expertise to continually monitor and be able to make sure that it follow up, make sure everybody's properly licensed.
What's the difference between a transient, whatever you call it, and a guest? I mean, suppose somebody has a different guest that stays for 4 or 5 days every week. They can still say, well, I'm sorry, it's not a short-term rental, they're my guests. Do you saw them hand them money?
Whether or not there's money paid is not of consequence. It's the turnover.
And the turnover is the amount of time.
Right.
Got it.
But you can still have as many guests as you want, as often if you want, really, in your house, can't you?
Okay. Are you there the whole time?
Yeah.
That's one of the differences.
Oh,
Because these are generally not owner occupied. But yeah, and that's kind of part of the problem.
I mean, I think really the biggest way that you're gonna find it is the advertisements. If you're
Right.
gonna have an Airbnb or whatever, you can advertise that property is for an Airbnb, so you'll know.
yeah, that's a dead giveaway.
Yeah, absolutely it is, absolutely it is.
But that's the burden on us as the town and myself representing the town is something that we're going to have to prove if we do commence an enforcement action and they say, no, these are just friends of mine. Or, and that's why it's not, absent the online advertisements, the different venues that make it clear that, this is just truly rental property. There may be cases where we advise you not to pursue it this time just because, it's going to be extremely difficult and extremely costly to prove, and at the moment, that information may not be available.
Now, is there anything on the licensing portion over here? I know we left that open, there's $1 per year per property. Is there something that governs the law as to the minimum you can charge and the maximum you can charge?
Everything's based on reasonableness, so there isn't anything, I haven't found anything yet where, folks get in trouble. Either one way or the other. Sometimes it's, there may not be a registration fee at all. I don't know if I'd recommend that because there's effort involved and there's, somebody's time is a portion of that effort, and it's reasonable for the town to be compensated for that effort. So it's not costing, the taxpayers that aren't using the property for this purpose additional resources and money. But I mean, if you look at kind of some of the other licensing laws, you're generally in like the $25 to $200 range. Usually closer to the $25, $50 if it's an annual license, a little bit more if it's long term. But it's it's designed to kind of cover the tracking charge.
I asked that question because I think there's when you look at some of the rates that they're receiving up at the Northern Living, and what they're getting per month, I think it would just be a waste of the time, so the embarrassment would be to charge them $50 an annual fee when they're getting, $2,500 a night is what they're advertising for.
Right.
I mean, there's gotta be some sense of reason to what the business generates.
Right. They just have it scaled to
I mean, the other option we may have and want to consider is that assessments be done on the income, if it's an income property, on the income basis rather than just on the value of the property itself. If they're actually generating dollars there. There's like 3 different ways you can assess a property,
right.
and that may be the way to go if in essence we think that the permit's going to be too. We don't want, or
Yeah.
sliding scale or something, I don't know, just a thought. we can discuss that obviously, but it's kind of disheartening when, somebody's making $2,500 a night for a wedding party and they're disrupting all their neighbors. Kind of.
Right.
I'd be embarrassed to say to a town resident that, whose whole summer is being destroyed, we took care of you, we got a $50 fee. And they're looking at you like you're nuts because they see that the place is worth giving $10,000, $12,000 a week over something. So, just a thought, I just want to mention that, I don't know. Now, I know that, this, can we dumb this down a little bit so that somebody like myself can understand it?
Which part?
A lot of it.
Alright.
I mean, I don't know if it's doable yet, but I know some of it's like legalese, and I think that a couple of us are a little uncomfortable with. And maybe it can't, maybe it needs to be done this way.
No, and I try to use English as much as possible, and I don't always succeed.
That's probably where I have my problem. I don't speak very good English.
To the extent that, just circle stuff.
Okay.
Email to me, and I'm happy to re-examine and, reword as necessary.
I
It
have a
won't hurt my
question
feelings.
on Article 5, B, C. What would be an example of the right for the town board to shorten the 3-day notice to the,
Safety risk.
okay. Would that,
Like if the septic tank is failing, or you find out that there's too many people, things like that, where we have to act quickly.
okay.
Emergency circumstances.
Yeah.
And I have one more, Article 6, A. It says that the enforcement officer can come on the property and be shown, you have to let him in, show him the apartment upon notice. Sound like right away, on request. Well, just a sample, when I had a problem with my neighbor and basically the septic, the problem there, my well being contaminated by their cows and stuff, DEC couldn't even come in their house. They had to give them 2-week notice. I was like, well, by then they finally fed the cows. And, how come we can come in upon request when New York State can't even?
That's why it's included in the law.
So we can,
So
We
we can.
really can, so it's legal, you really can come in upon notice. Okay.
I guess if you were to look at like a site plan violation, and it's to your own experience, the property owner has the ability to say no to Mark. Mark's response, the enforcement officer, not necessarily the
Yeah,
position of the person. In order for him to gain access, we need to get a warrant. We need to go to the court and get permission to access the property and lay the case out in detail. The way the law is currently written.
now would that be done to local JP level? Or is that-
Yes.
Good.
but this would make it so you could they would have to let Mark in then.
Correct.
Okay.
I mean, he can't just show up, knock on the door, and demand to come in. But he has the ability to send him a letter saying, I'm coming to inspect on X date. And the main reason one of the main reasons is really, you know, when you start looking at bedrooms and things like that, you need to be able to be inside the building to find out what the setup actually looks like.
I mean, really, it sounds like a lot of this obviously is going to fall to the enforcement officer position. Ultimately, and because I can already tell what's going to happen. He's going to get phone calls at 11 o'clock at night, and so you know how this is going to go. But it's really going to be up to that position to really document the cases, and if you continue to get issues with certain properties, or the case may be, that's where you're kind of going to get the teeth. Not really necessarily going after the amount of people that are there, this or that, but going after things like the noise problems and just nuisance and that kind of stuff. So it sounds like.
And this is generally set up to address the frequent offenders.
Right.
This isn't necessarily set up to prevent a house party that's already started. There is some stuff in here that you could use, that law enforcement could use, you know, quiet hours and things like that, but occupancy figures are a little sketchy. You know, it's really going to, it's designed to protect the surrounding neighborhood on an ongoing basis.
And so once it gets to the point where it's maybe an issue or several documented issues,
You'd be in a position to
kind of go after that.
adequately.
And once you revoke that license, that stops that operation completely at that property.
Correct.
So once we come to an agreement on what we just want this document to look like, then we have to have a hearing,
Public
a
hearing
public hearing.
on both local ones,
Okay.
or that the direction the board takes.
Okay.
The other thing that's not in the site plan review law, which should probably be discussed and considered, is some form of sunset provision. Where, and there's one change that I need to make to the short-term regulations law that requires the property owner to produce a copy of the site plan approval saying they can use the property in this manner. So there should be essentially a time frame. There could be a time frame the board should consider as to, you know, those property owners that currently are operating as a short-term rental. You know, at what point do they need to get site plan approval, or don't they at all, to be able to continue to use that property in this manner? It's currently silent, which means if both of these laws were enacted today, you couldn't get your license in January without site plan approval. You know, do you want to exempt existing businesses upon showing the proper proof that they were or do predate the law? Do you want to give them 2 years, 30 days, a reasonable time frame in order for them to come into compliance? Reasonable is a question of degree. It's going to depend in part on getting out in the community, getting the property owners to know. So,
Okay, so let's take the first one here first. Let's take the local law regulating short-term rentals in the town of Fort Hill. Was there anything specific that anyone saw in here that they would like you to add or delete? We won't vote on this tonight, but we'll give Jeff some guidance if anything you want to change, and maybe if there's not things that we want to do, then we could go ahead and we could set up the public hearing, correct, yeah?
yes.
There's no changes to it?
Right, well, there's going to be one change,
Okay.
at least. Being the copy of the site plan approval. There'd be an Article 3, probably, N would be added.
Gotcha, okay.
I have one question. And short-term rental. You list in there bed and breakfast. for under 30 days.
Is excluded, correct. It's excluded,
Right.
yes.
So I don't have a short-term rental now, I have a bed and breakfast.
That is clearly a commercial business that requires site plan approval.
Okay.
But no.
I can't play a word game with it
You can try.
then. Yeah. Because people are gonna try it out.
No, absolutely, absolutely. And then you're examining a definition of a bed and breakfast, and generally it's owner occupied, communal feeding,
Mhm.
those types of things which may or may not exist and may or may not be easy to argue with or defend.
I'm just looking at a potential loophole.
No, absolutely.
Okay, so having said that, what's our pleasure? Do we want to let this carry over with the changes until the June board and then do it, or we look at have Jeff get the stuff out to us and we'll have a special meeting to enact it so the clock will start ticking so we can do the public hearing and that type of stuff so we get it in before the real season kicks off here. What's everybody's pleasure?
Before we send it to, a hearing, do we have to set the license fee prior to that?
It should. I mean, we can,
So we probably should wanna figure that out then?
What do you think would be a reasonable license fee?
Yeah.
Do you have any examples on that, Jeff? What other places are doing, like Coolidge or anything like that? Up on the lake?
probably not with me.
I guess what my thoughts are, I'm gonna have to, I'm not gonna say we have to, I'm gonna say we should make the fee so there's gonna be to self-pay the program. Whatever those fees might be, we know what we have for users. And, I don't know if it's a sliding scale that we could use for occupancy, or it would be just a straight up flat fee.
I would start with a straight up flat fee.
Okay.
And then I guess depending on comment from the public, and even if I do some additional research that says you can do the sliding fee, or this may be appropriate for the smaller guests, you can always adjust it.
Okay. What were you thinking, Mike? Fee-wise?
Boy, I mean, what are you thinking? I mean, what do you-
I'm thinking, I'm thinking something along depending on,
I mean, it's for a calendar year,
yeah, exactly.
so I mean, really 100, maybe, somewhere broader, what do you think?
I was more than $500 range,
All
quite
right.
frankly. Cause it's not, you got, I know it's gonna be each one of the places up here, but this place has already got, what, 7 places
Right.
that they're doing, and they're looking to expand other properties in 48 to do the same thing.
And there is no debating that this is going to be a cost to us to an extent with the
Yeah.
enforcement issues or wherever the case may be, so I don't debate that with that, so I mean.
What are you thinking, George?
I like the 500.
Yep.
It's good, you figure what it's gonna cost us with the code enforcement officer, additional knowledge.
Yeah, because we're gonna have to put some money into that, because it's not way to hell have the law. And then, because if we don't, then we're gonna hear the same thing. We're putting the law in to stop the problem, but if we're not going to enforce it, we can. I just don't know. What do you think, Deb?
Sounds high, it's higher than what I was thinking, but it's acceptable, I guess. I mean, they're definitely making a killing on it, so. I mean, we're not making a killing on it, they're making a
They are.
killing on it, yeah.
Exactly. Gretchen, what's your thoughts?
I'm not really sure,
Okay.
to be honest.
Okay. Well, let's give that some thought. We'll do some soul searching on that, and then come back. So we haven't decided tonight, I wanna get it done I prefer to get it done as rapidly as we can so we can start the season off. And in fairness to the people that live up there, that have to live with this day to day.
Why don't we put in 500 and just knowing that we may adjust it in
Okay,
the future, I mean,
If
it'll get the process moving.
we have to go 500, ends up being an issue, we're definitely those things that we can't do 500, or whatever the case may be, we can absolutely go down in there.
George, you comfortable with that?
Now, the other thing is too, these places, most of them have been rented out right during the winter and everything.
Yeah.
You know, it's almost not a seasonal thing.
Right. Right. That's why it doesn't bother me with the 500, because
Yeah.
everybody,
Yeah, and I mean, you look across the lake from me, I know where the rentals are, and they're the same thing, they're all lit up.
And then, Jeff, this is not gonna hurt the individuals that, traditionally would have their own family come out for a weekend instead of it, right?
Yeah.
This is a whole different, that's not going to affect, so.
Yeah.
Yeah, because we do have members on the lake to do that, it's their recreational thing, it's their family, they wanna bring them up. So we don't wanna hinder that at all.
I'm
So-
not sure where we ended up standing with the grandfathering in the ones that are already happening. Did we decide, are we doing something to stop that, or? I mean, did we decide we're gonna put a line in there about they have to apply within so many months, or?
Yeah, I think what will probably happen, this is my summation, that once we put this on, that they would be required, all the ones that we know would be required to pay the fee, correct, Jeff?
Yeah, it would, no, it's well, there's two separate things. One is the regulations. They'd have to pay the fee and comply. And the second is complying with one of the regulations, which is site plan approval requirement. So they are technically separate. And no, you hadn't decided. The conversation started as it related to the site plan review, not necessarily as the licensure.
Right.
So essentially, we could say, you have to submit a site plan review within 60 days to Road Mountain.
Right.
Okay.
I guess my thought would be to have the shorter time for the regulation and the longer period for the site plan approval.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, because what will happen is, if we let them go in their whole season, I mean, they're gonna continue to do what they're doing.
Right.
And we won't have them monitored or anything else. And I still think Northern Living's gonna do what they're gonna do, because, 500 for what they're making up there is a pittance.
Right. Yeah, I mean, you're kind of already on top of it with having the county, come and inspect it, right? And then for the one that's 21 people or whatever the estimate is, anyways, this regulation's going to cut that down anyways. So it's going to be 2 people and then they're plus 2. So really, you're kind of preventing an issue, and then kind of big time for this. That makes sense.
And I have one other question. Suppose you've got somebody that lives in Florida. They're advertising at such and such a website. Who are we actually collecting this from? We're really gonna try to go to Florida and get them to comply? I mean, how are they gonna know?
Property tax records. So wherever the tax bill gets in, if we know they're doing it, if we know it's occurring at that property, the tax bill address gets sent the notice saying you're in violation.
If I was in Florida, do you think I'm gonna travel all the way up here to pay you $500? I would just say, catch me when you wanna come down after me.
Then we would use they would close them down.
Right.
They wouldn't be able to do it.
So yeah, I'll give you a quick question there.
How do you do that?
The
You gonna put something across their driveway to stop them from doing it? I mean, they're gonna do it anyway if they want to.
No, we can record it.
penalty aspect, I had questions.
But you're right, that's gonna be tough, but again, we would send them, once we know that it's going on at the facility, we would find, okay, who are the principals, Cause somebody owns it, could be a corporation, could be, you know, whatever. And whoever's in that tax roll would then send an application packet down, for lack of a better word, say, okay, you need to do this to be in compliance, if not, here are the violations that you know.
Could we connect this to the company that's advertising it too, though, so that,
Sure.
I mean, that
Why
would,
not?
That's what I was gonna ask.
they're not gonna ruin their
Really, through the penalty,
reputation
right.
just because somebody from Florida doesn't wanna comply.
Yeah, if you go to section, or article 6, and then you go down to D where it says penalties, so not more than $950, but then say they continue, so basically if they continue to operate that, even though their license has been revoked, or the case may be, they have submitted one, whatever the case may be, it looks like in section E that now the town of Fort Haven has the ability to go after that property owner, correct, Jeff?
Yes.
Okay,
D, E, and F.
okay.
And the violation can apply to anybody owning, operating, or maintaining.
That would do.
And Article 7 just covers, it basically goes to court, and the court rules that part of this is not acceptable, but it doesn't negate the entire thing.
Correct.
Right.
Are there any more questions on this? If there's not, let's move on to the local law amending town, just go through that one, two objectives later.
Looks good to me.
Yes, to me too.
All right.
Anybody else have any questions on it?
I have just a question in general, I guess. If I own my house, I'm the only one living there. I want to rent out individual bedrooms. The period is unknown. I don't know how long people are gonna do this. They pay me $100 per week. Does that fall under this, or is that something separate?
It could.
Okay.
It depends on how long you're offering your guests the ability to stay.
Okay. So over 30 days is
Fine.
okay.
You're not under this.
I only ask that because, and I don't want someone to I only ask that because there's a ton of transient permiters right now. So from what we're saying, that's how the business works.
Right.
People in houses, they live there, but they also rent out their bedrooms, and I just don't necessarily want it to turn into confusion, I guess.
Right.
Okay. So over 30 days are fine, under 30 days potentially could be an issue.
Right.
Okay.
You still have a CO file pass.
So Chad, as
I know I'm gonna get bombarded with that, so.
Chad, as a member of the planning board, I know it's not an official capacity tonight. You've heard the conversation. What are your thoughts from the planning board perspective, maybe, as a member?
I'm sure you don't wanna hear my thoughts.
Sure. So that's
Well, one of your biggest problems with that is gonna be enforcement.
Yeah.
Our enforcement officers way overtaxed now. And if you're creating this law to take care of a problem that may be on the lake, are you penalizing the whole town?
No,
That
this-
sounds it.
No, this is not just for the lake, that's why it's written the way that it is. Okay, because there are problems throughout the town when we get phone calls, of individuals that had strange cars parked in your driveway for an extended period of time, going over and telling neighbors about it, because people have been staying there, paying for the 3 or 4 days that they're there. And their driveway being blocked in by the cars or with the other houses, their neighbors' houses, and they can't get out. So no, this is not aimed at just the lake. The lake is where it has significant trouble with the volume, with the numbers. Like people showing up at a person's house and staying overnight for 25, persons show up and they're down on the beach, yelling and swimming, screaming and yelling profanities at nighttime. And without law, we can't even have the police go in and do anything about it.
Well, it just seems that currently you have enough laws that aren't being enforced,
Well,
code enforcement on it.
We're
So
gonna-
if we start overtaxing Mark even more, what's gonna happen?
well, we are going to be addressing that issue when we put it together. Okay. I'm not going to discuss anybody's job performance as we sit here. But, I think there's things that we've asked that hasn't been done, and we're gonna start clamping down on those because we need to do it, because it's affecting other things as well. So,
Okay.
But also as a town board, we really can't sit here and say, we have a problem, but we don't wanna make so-and-so work too hard. I mean, we wouldn't be a very good town board if we did that.
I can see the big danger is what's gonna happen, Mark's gonna have to pick and choose, or you're gonna have to find someone who can fully do the whole job.
like I
So
just
what's
said,
gonna happen is it'll be like you're targeting certain individuals, you're not really just doing it across the board.
But by having
That's
this,
my biggest fear with making a law and not having a way to enforce it.
yes,
but by having this cover the entire town, I think you set forth the expectation, obviously, that,
Right.
yeah, if you wanna have an account stock, this is the regulations that you will abide by and whatnot, so it's really not penalizing really, it's setting forth an expectation.
The industry is growing so much, you gotta address it overall. Because what's not there today will be there tomorrow.
yeah, and go back to your Chad, we take the names out, if we take the names out of the code enforcement thing, okay, whoever's gonna be in that position, whether it be Mark or whoever, is gonna have to step up to the plate and do what's gonna be required.
Do you feel the town has the budget to do that?
Well, we've got what he's got, if we get the fees for these places, yeah.
Because it seems like it would be quite the job.
I don't think so. I don't think so. Once you establish the pattern and people understand that's the role and what they're gonna do, it's not the Wild West. We're just gonna come in and set up a shop and, do whatever you wanna do. I think it's manageable. I really do, Chad.
Northern is not a fly-by-night outfit.
No, they're not. No, they're not.
They want it to be peaceable. They will always have complaints, so.
But if we don't, and your point's well taken, because if you don't enforce it, they're gonna just run like the Wild West. They're-
Right.
When they have they don't get away from Lake George. Okay, they don't get away with their places in Queensboro, Lake, Glen Lake, and those kind of places. And nor do any of the other ones over there in the county now that they're aware of that they're operating with a business license to perform their business.
So, it's
Yeah, your point's well taken, Chad. And that's, we're dealing with some of the issues. I mean, comments, we've had comments about the report that we get from Mark. Okay? And then you'll be able to primitively, we're talking about, okay, you're doing these things, well, what was the conversation about? I mean, how many did you talk about bed and breakfast? How did you talk about, what, when you look at the whole report, there's numbers here. I mean, like voicemails. Well, okay. Phone calls, 34 phone calls, what were those for? Checking with your bookie, I don't know. It's, so we have to be more proactive with our code enforcement, there's no doubt about that. It's like when we have someone that adds a building on, we may all go by and see it, but it never gets done by code enforcement to tell the assessor that, hey, we saw this place actually have a building permit to do what they're doing. We can all ride around and see it. So I think that my point being that whoever's in code enforcement has to really be dedicated to code enforcement.
Agreed.
Okay? And, there's some changes we'll have to make to get used to it, but I think if we don't start doing it, a lot of this is efforts that you guys put in on the planning board, and nobody follows up on it to make sure that it's been done. Because you have a code enforcement officer, that should be their responsibility to do those things.
Correct.
Okay? That's kind of where I'm going with this, okay? This is a multi problematic issue. It's not just for this aspect of it, it's when you guys do things, who's actually enforcing that they've actually done what you requested for them to do, and they maintain it that way. And that's something that I think we both can agree on we've never done. You guys don't want to enforce it. They come in, they do what they gotta do, you do your portion of it.
And we are not an enforcement agency, I don't believe, correct?
That's my point.
Right.
That's my point. But we know there's enforcement needs to be done.
Right.
Okay, so when you couple what should be done there, not for lack of what you're doing, but the things that should be done once you've completed your work and move on to the enforcement phase, all right, that hasn't been done. So I think with what we're doing now on a part-time basis, and what we're getting for a number of hours, we may need to take a look at raising that. And one of the ways we do that is that portion maybe will pay to itself with the fees that we get from businesses that are operating as businesses. Not gonna drive them out, not gonna drive them away. Because when you're talking about renting a place up there for $2,500 a night, $500 would be a drop in the bucket. So, I think, and I appreciate some of your concerns, but I'm not trying to blow you off, I just think that we're at the point, if we don't, we're just gonna end up with a lot of businesses around that are gonna increase our infrastructure and those types of things, and we're not gonna have the money to do it. So,
Well, I think code enforcement's definitely gonna be the key.
I think you're right.
So I think there's way too many things get overlooked, and then a few people get pinpointed out.
Yep.
It's the hot topic of the month.
Yep.
And everything else kind of falls to the wayside.
Yep.
Whether they're overworked or they don't want to do the job, that's neither here nor there, but it just doesn't get done.
Yeah, we have to get it done. Yeah. And I think we're all in tune today. We've discussed that a couple of different times, so your point's well taken.
Thank you.
So, having said that, on the site plan review thing, you see anything that jumps out at you there that you guys deal with on a? So Chad's reading there, Jeff, why don't we do this? If you could make, at your convenience here, a time to make those changes in here, get us out a copy of what we discussed tonight and the changes.
Yep.
Maybe based on the time we receive that, then we can, take a look at doing a special meeting. And we'll come in and get that part of it done, and we'll schedule the special meeting and for the local law and, for the short-term rentals. You know, we can go from there, we'll have the public hearing and that kind of stuff, and we'll move along. Does that work, Gretchen? You agree with that?
The Queensberry doesn't really have a formal license process, but Bolton just did. Their fees haven't been quickly pinpointed by me while we're sitting here, but I'll find out exactly what Bolton charges. Theirs is a 3-year license, but I'll get that information for the next thing.
Okay. We'll see where we go with it. Very good. Okay. So let's go ahead to our resolutions, and then we'll do that with Chad reviewing that, and then we'll go back to Chad afterwards to see if he's got any comments or questions or suggestions on the site review, because he's been a long time member of the planning board. Maybe give us some input. Okay, let's start resolutions. Clark?
Resolution 46 of 2021, approving the hiring of 2 laborers to mow cemeteries for the summer of 2021. Resolved that the town board of the town of Fort Anne hereby approves the hiring of 2 laborers for the summer of 2021 to mow the cemeteries at an hourly rate, each of $13.65 an hour, with a 50-cent per hour per year longevity step.
Okay, do we have a motion? Move that.
I'll make that motion.
Michael moves that, George seconds it, Gretchen seconds it. Okay, is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Okay, I have one
Oh,
question.
yep, got a question.
Didn't we have, some Boy Scouts or something, there was no, people from the prison were coming over and, I don't know what you call that, where they come over and do the mowing for us.
Like trustees that were out.
Sure, yeah.
They haven't done that in quite a while. We are using the alternative sentence people,
Yeah.
and they are doing some of it when they can work it in,
But
at no cost to the town.
Yeah, and the prison won't, so it'll be, Washington would be the best bet, they won't even let their crews, their outside crews come over and mow the ones at Great Mountain right now, so,
really,
yeah, so, it's gonna be a fruitful thing.
But yeah, there was a time when we used the prisoners to pay.
Yeah, I think it was when each lock was still open, they used to, that was the minimum security, they used to come out, and do it, they used to take on all of them, that was good.
Go ahead then, you start saying something, I cut you off, I apologize.
no, that's fine, no, it's fine.
Okay. Is there any further discussion? We need a roll call on that, just the money right now.
We haven't in the past.
Okay, so, all in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, carried.
Resolution 47 of 2021, to hire summer recreation employees. Now therefore be resolved that the Fort Anne Town Board authorizes and directs the hiring of the above employees to work for the 6-week Town of Fort Anne Summer Recreation Program on a part-time seasonal basis starting July 1st, 2021, and be it further resolved that the Town Board of the Town of Fort Anne further authorizes and directs the town supervisor and/or clerk to supervisor to complete any forms and take any action necessary to effectuate the terms of this resolution.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, got a motion, we got a second from Gretchen, second from Michael. Is there any discussion? All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, carried.
And number 48 of 2021, authorizing hiring of seasonal employees to work for Lake Cadlock Park District. Now therefore be it resolved that the town board of the town of Fort Anne authorizes and directs the hiring for the above positions to work for the Lake Cadlock Park District on a seasonal basis effective on or about June 1st, 2021, that should say, to be paid at the above hourly wages and subject to the town successfully completing background checks as well as drug and/or alcohol screening for MEOs and chief mechanical harvester operator. And be it further resolved that the town board of the town of Fort Anne authorizes and directs the town supervisor and/or town budget officer to complete any forms and take any action necessary to effectuate the terms of this resolution.
Do we have a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Michael, do we have a second?
Second.
George, do we have any discussion?
No.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, opposed, carried.
And resolution number 49 of 2021, abolishing the elective office of receiver of taxes in the town of Fort Anne. Do you want me to read the whole thing, or?
Yeah, would you please,
Yeah, I think
we haven't
this
had a
is
chance to
probably-
review it.
yeah,
Just take it.
formula. Whereas pursuant to section 36 of New York State Town Law, the town board of the town of Fort Anne has the authority to adopt, abolish the elective office of receiver of taxes. And whereas after due deliberation thereon, the town has determined that it is in the best interest of the residents of the town of Fort Anne to abolish the elected office of receiver of taxes. And whereas the town may enter into an intermunicipal agreement with the Washington County designating the treasurer as the sole and exclusive authority to collect taxes, and whereas said intermunicipal agreement would provide tax savings to the residents of the town of Fort Anne, and whereas the proposal is an action under the New York State Environmental Quality Review Act, the town board hereby declares that this action is a type 2 action pursuant to NYCRR 617.5 and is hereby precluded from further environmental review. Now therefore be it resolved pursuant to section 36 of New York State Town Law, the town of Fort Anne hereby abolishes the elective office of receiver of taxes for the town and abolish of said office to take effect at the expiration of the term of office of the present incumbent on December 31st, 2021, and be it further resolved, the elective office of receiver of taxes of the town of Fort Anne is hereby abolished as of January 1st, 2022. The powers and duties of the office of the receiver of taxes shall be consolidated with the office of the town clerk of the town of Fort Anne, and be it further resolved, this resolution shall take effect immediately.
Okay. And do we have a motion to move that? Gretchen moves it, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Deb seconds it. Discussion. Yeah, under discussion, I would just like to say that this disappears and it's going to save us approximately $12,000 a year by having it done by the county, contract with the county to do it. And because Donna has already expressed she was not going to run for taxes again for another tax collector, and we didn't have any one that really jumped forward and said, I want to do it. Rather than miss the tax filings and do an appointment, this way we can do it as neatly and cleanly as we can, and save the taxpayers some money and move things forward. So this one, because of what I would like to do a roll call on this one, if you don't mind, please.
Yeah, can I just ask a question? I don't know if it's technical or not, Jeff, but we are a receiver of taxes. Should I change that to say tax collector? She's an elected tax collector. Like I know like town of Queensbury, they're a receiver of taxes. Town of Kingsbury, I think it's because of the size of the town. Is that the way it goes?
That's part of the reason is
But we've never referred to it as a receiver of
it's
taxes.
the tax collector, whatever the official designation is, I thought it was receiver of taxes.
Yeah, and on the ballot, I think like board of
It always says
elections.
tax collector in the ballot.
Alright, then.
That doesn't mean it's right, Jeff, I'm just saying that's what.
Yeah,
we're
town of Fort Anne tax collectors.
It says Fort Anne, you know.
I just don't wanna get caught up on a technicality.
Right. It should be tax collector, if that's what her position is, it should be tax collector.
Okay. So can we just change it on here, see how we voted on it?
Yeah, and I can change it in all the spots where it shows. Let me know when you're ready for
I'm
the
ready.
roll call. Okay.
Anyway.
Okay. Stark,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
Sexton,
Yes.
Witherell,
Yes.
and Hall.
Yes. Okay, and that takes care of our resolutions. The other thing that I saw in here was, everyone got their copy of the request for proposals for the LoSAP. So you review that, that's okay, that's gonna go out. We got the other thing we discussed was the pop-up clinics that we're gonna be doing for the other. So, at this point in time, if there's no further public discussion, which there is because I wanted to check with Chad and see what he thought about the site plan review thing, Chad. Any thoughts?
lot to digest there in 5 minutes. I guess there's no further thought than my other comments I previously had.
Okay,
Currently.
okay, gotcha.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Jeff, participating, I appreciate that. All right, at this point in time, I'd like to move into executive session for the reasons of,
To discuss a personnel issue regarding a specific employee.
and on the, we have some contract negotiations to look at as well.
Okay.
Does that falls in that same category, right?
Correct.
Is it? Okay. So use that as well. Now, so we're going to move into executive session. When we come back out of executive session, we're not going to be meeting on anything. There will be no further business conducted. So we can adjourn out the regular meeting now, or do we go into executive and then?
You still need to go into executive and you have to adjourn everything at the end. That notice does allow the public to plan accordingly in the event they want to tack up and have
Okay. Very
So I'll
good.
just take a motion for the executive session.
I'll make that
Are you
motion.
ready?
Mike's got it,
Go.
yep. You have a second?
Second.
George?
Okay.
Great.
George, when you knock on my door, don't scare me this time. Remember last month you scared me? When you said it was time to come back, I was in deep thought. I'll be in deep thought again with all these minutes.
Alright.
Okay, so
Yeah,
all in
let us
favor
know
of going
when
to
you're
executive
full.
session?
Yep.
Aye.
Stop.
Everybody else set?
Yep, fine.
We're going to executive session. Okay.